All right, so imagine Chicago, right? You've got those soaring skyscrapers, the vibrant energy, and of course, no Chicago experience is complete without the deep dish pizza.
Bucks.
But hey, beyond that iconic skyline, there's a hidden gem for savvy investors like you listening right now.
Okay.
We're talking about the townhome market.
Interesting.
And today we're diving deep, no pun intended, into Build a Portfolio of Townhome Rentals
Okay.
by Michael Linton.
Right.
He's a seasoned expert with over 3 decades of experience navigating Chicago real estate.
Wow, that's impressive.
He really knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to uncover why townhomes are such a smart investment in this bustling city. And of course, we want to arm you with the knowledge to potentially profit
Right.
in this lucrative market.
Absolutely. And what makes Linton's insights so valuable is that he doesn't just talk the talk. He's
Yeah.
walked the walk for 37 years, buying, selling, really understanding the pulse of this specific market.
He's like the townhome whisperer
There you go.
of Chicago.
Exactly.
And one of his key arguments is that townhomes strike that perfect balance for today's renter.
Interesting.
They offer the space and the privacy of a single-family home without the hefty price tag.
Yeah.
And they provide a sense of community that condos often lack.
Right.
Plus, let's be real, maintenance on a sprawling lawn is so last century.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where the magic happens. Chicago's a magnet for young professionals, growing families, even empty nesters looking to downsize,
Right.
all seeking that sweet spot between spacious living and urban convenience.
Okay.
This translates into a built-in demand for townhomes, a key ingredient in a landlord's recipe for success.
It's like that Goldilocks and the Three Bears story, but for real estate.
I like it.
The townhome is not too big, not too small, but just right.
Just right.
And speaking of just right, Linton emphasizes that the financial returns can be pretty enticing too.
Oh, yeah?
It's not just about that steady stream of rental income.
Right.
We're talking about the potential for property appreciation, that satisfying bump in value over time.
Exactly. It's that two-pronged win that gets investors excited.
Of course.
Now, here's where things get interesting. Chicago versus its suburbs.
Okay.
It's like having two distinct markets within one metropolitan area.
It's like choosing between deep dish pizza in the heart of the city or a slice of that suburban tranquility.
I like it.
So break it down for us. What are the key differences?
Think of it this way. In Chicago proper, those trendy neighborhoods come with higher price tags, but you're likely to command higher rents, which can be a huge plus for investors seeking immediate cash flow. Now, the suburbs offer a more laid-back vibe, often at a lower price point. It's all about weighing your investment goals and risk tolerance.
Location, location,
Yeah.
location. Right. Thinking of location, does Linton highlight any specific neighborhoods that are particularly hot for townhome investors?
He sure does. For those seeking that urban energy, Lincoln Park is a perennial favorite. Think tree-lined streets, historic architecture, and a stone's throw from Lake Michigan. Of course, you've got the Loop, Chicago's bustling financial and cultural hub, where proximity to everything is the name of the game. And for a more eclectic vibe, Wicker Park, with its art-scene independent boutiques and trendy restaurants, is a magnet for a younger demographic.
Okay, I'm already picturing myself strolling through those charming streets, lattes in hand. But what about our suburban explorers? Any hidden gems out there?
Linton points to Naperville, known for its top-rated schools and family-friendly atmosphere. Then there's Arlington Heights, which offers that small-town charm without sacrificing access to the city.
It's like having the best of both worlds, peace and tranquility, without sacrificing convenience. But let's get down to the numbers. Does Linton provide any concrete examples of what these townhomes actually cost and what kind of rental income investors can expect?
He sure does. Let's take Lincoln Park, for example. A typical townhome there can range from $500,000 to over $1 million. But here's the kicker. The potential rental yield in that neighborhood sits comfortably between 5–7%, meaning you could be looking at a substantial return on your investment.
Okay, now we're talking. That's not chump change. What about the Loop? Those downtown digs must come at a premium.
You're right. A townhome in the Loop can set you back anywhere from $600,000 to upwards of $1.2 million, but the rental yield there is even more impressive, 6–8%. It's a classic case of higher risk, higher reward.
I'm sensing a theme here. Bigger investment, potentially bigger returns, but it's all about finding that sweet spot that aligns with your financial goals and risk tolerance, right? What about trendy Wicker Park? What kind of numbers are we looking at there?
Wicker Park offers a slightly more affordable entry point, with townhomes ranging from $400,000 to $900,000 and a respectable rental yield of 5–7%.
Okay, I'm adding that to my list of neighborhoods to explore. But before I get too caught up in daydreaming about chic Wicker Park lofts, I have to ask, does Linton just leave us hanging with those numbers? Or does he dive deeper into what it takes to actually make those townhome investments successful?
He definitely doesn't just scratch the surface. Linton goes beyond the buy low, sell high mantra and really digs into the nitty-gritty of what it means to be a successful landlord in Chicago. It's about understanding the nuances, the legal landscape, and the strategic decisions that can make or break your investment.
Okay, let's unpack that. What are some things that aspiring townhome landlords might not consider at first glance?
One word: turnover. It's not just about finding a tenant, it's about minimizing those costly vacancies. Every time a tenant moves out, it eats into your profits. Then there's the ever-evolving world of Chicago's rental regulations. You need to know the rules of the game, and those rules are outlined in Chicago's Residential Landlord and Tenant Ordinance, the RLTO.
The RLTO sounds pretty official. What are some key takeaways from the Chicago Landlord's Bible?
Well, it covers everything from security deposit regulations to eviction procedures. For example, did you know that in Chicago, you can't simply set any late fee you want? The RLTO dictates the maximum amount you can charge and the specific notice periods you need to follow. It's all about protecting both landlords and tenants and ensuring everyone's playing by the rules.
It's like having a comprehensive playbook for navigating the world of Chicago rentals. You definitely don't want to get caught off sides on those regulations.
Exactly. And then there's the art of renovation.
Ah, yes, renovations, those magical transformations that can make a property shine. But I imagine renovations in Chicago come with their own set of considerations.
They do. And Linton provides some valuable insights into maximizing your return on investment when it comes to sprucing up those townhomes. He gives a compelling example focusing on kitchens and bathrooms. These two rooms offer the biggest bang for your buck, especially in the competitive Chicago market.
Okay, kitchens and bathrooms. Those are always hot ticket items for renters, but what makes them such smart investments for landlords?
Well, think about it. The kitchen is the heart of the home, right? It's where people gather, cook, and create memories. A stylish and functional kitchen can be a major selling point for potential renters.
And the bathroom. Well, that's your sanctuary, your personal spa. A well-designed bathroom can elevate the entire living experience. But beyond those aesthetic upgrades, what are some strategic renovations that can add real value to a Chicago townhome?
Energy efficiency is huge. Tenants are increasingly eco-conscious and willing to pay a premium for a home that's kind to both the environment and their wallets.
Makes sense. So we're talking about those upgrades that reduce utility bills and shrink that carbon footprint. What are some examples of energy-efficient upgrades that landlords should consider?
Upgrading to energy-efficient windows is a great place to start. Those drafty old windows can be a major source of heat loss in the winter and heat gain in the summer. And don't underestimate the power of insulation. A well-insulated townhome is more comfortable year-round and can significantly reduce those energy bills.
Okay, so it's a win-win for everyone. Lower utility bills for tenants, a smaller environmental impact, and potentially higher rental income for landlords. But let's be real, all these renovations, regulations, and tenant turnover talk, it's a lot to manage. Linton doesn't just expect landlords to handle all this solo, does he?
You're right. It can be a lot to juggle, especially if you have multiple properties or a busy schedule. Linton dedicates an entire chapter to exploring the pros and cons of hiring a property manager, someone to handle those day-to-day tasks and ensure everything's running smoothly.
Okay, so it's like having a trusted co-pilot in your real estate journey. But let's be honest, those management fees can eat into your profits. What are the key factors landlords should consider when deciding whether to hire a pro or go it alone?
It really boils down to your personal circumstances, your risk tolerance, and your comfort level with those landlord responsibilities.
So there's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding the approach that best fits your individual needs and goals.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, financing those townhome dreams. I mean, these Chicago properties don't come cheap. What are some of the financing avenues Linton explores?
He covers a wide range of options, from traditional mortgages to those lesser-known avenues like hard money loans. But for this deep dive, let's focus on hard money loans as they often raise questions for new investors.
Okay, hard money loans. They sound a bit, shall we say, intense. What are they, and what makes them different from those traditional bank loans?
Think of hard money loans as the express lane of real estate financing. They're typically offered by private lenders rather than banks, and they're based more on the value of the property itself than your credit score or income.
So it's a different set of criteria, and I'm guessing a different set of terms as well.
Exactly. Hard money loans often come with higher interest rates and shorter repayment terms, typically 12, 24 months. Okay, so they're a bit riskier, but they can be a good option for those who need to move quickly or might not qualify for a traditional loan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're often used by flippers who buy a property, renovate it quickly, and then sell it for a profit, repaying the loan in the process.
Got it. So if you're looking to play the long game, a traditional mortgage might be the way to go. But if you're a mover and shaker looking for a quick turnaround, hard money loans could be an option. But no matter which route you choose, always remember this isn't financial advice. It's crucial to consult with the experts before diving into any loans.
Absolutely. Your money, your investment, so due diligence is key. Speaking of which, Linton reminds us that investing, while exciting, shouldn't be a forever commitment. Having an exit strategy, a plan for eventually cashing in on your investment, is crucial.
Okay, smart. It's like having an escape route planned, just in case. But when is the right time to cash in on your Chicago townhome investment?
That's the million-dollar question. Linton highlights a few scenarios. You could sell for a profit, which is the ultimate goal, right? Or there's the 1031 exchange, which we'll delve into in more detail in part 3 of this deep dive. It's a fantastic tool for deferring those capital gains taxes. And of course, there's always the option of holding onto the property for the long haul, riding that appreciation wave, and enjoying that steady stream of rental income.
Decisions. Decisions. But the point is, having that exit strategy in mind from the get-go helps you make those informed choices along the way. But before we start planning our grand exits, let's talk about building a solid portfolio. Linton's a big advocate for diversification, right?
He is. He emphasizes that putting all your eggs in one basket, or in this case, one townhome, can be risky.
Okay, so spread those investments around. But what does that look like in the context of Chicago real estate? Are we talking about exploring different neighborhoods or venturing beyond townhomes altogether?
It's all on the table. Linton suggests that while townhomes are fantastic, mixing it up with other rental property types can add another layer of security to your investments. Maybe a condo in the heart of the city, a single-family home in a desirable suburb, or even a small apartment building.
So it's about creating a well-rounded portfolio that caters to different renters and spreads that risk across different property types.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that each of these properties appeals to different types of renters,
Sure.
which means a steadier income stream for you.
Okay, now that's what I call strategic investing. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our Chicago townhome deep dive. We've explored why townhomes are such attractive investments, the nuances of Chicago's rental market, the importance of due diligence, and even those creative financing options.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's so much more to uncover. Be sure to tune in to part 2 of our Chicago townhome deep dive, where we'll delve deeper into those advanced strategies for maximizing your investment potential. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're knee-deep in Chicago townhomes, using Michael Linton's expertise as our guide, ready to uncover more strategies for success.
Absolutely. We've laid the groundwork. Now it's time for those finer points that can really maximize returns.
So it's like we found our dream townhome, but now we need the interior design tips to make it really pop for renters.
Exactly. And one often overlooked aspect is timing. Linton highlights the importance of being seasonally savvy. Chicago's rental market, much like its weather, has its own rhythm.
Makes sense. People aren't exactly lining up to move during a Chicago blizzard, are they? When's prime time for townhome rentals?
Think late spring to early fall. Families want to settle in before the school year kicks off. The weather's ideal for moving. It's your Super Bowl.
Okay, so how do landlords score big during this primetime rush? What's the game plan?
Visibility is key. Make sure your listings are polished and prominent. Spruce up that curb appeal. Remember, first impressions matter. Be prepared for a whirlwind of showings and applications.
So it's all about being proactive and putting your townhome's best foot forward. But what about those inevitable slower months? How do you keep those rent checks flowing when Chicago's bundled up for winter?
That's where creativity comes in. Linton suggests a two-pronged approach: incentives and retention.
Okay, I love a good incentive. What are we talking about here? Free deep dish for a year.
Think a bit more practical. Maybe a discount on the first month's rent, a waived amenity fee, or even increased flexibility on lease terms.
So you're sweetening the deal to attract tenants during the off-season. Makes sense. And what about this retention strategy?
It's simple. A happy tenant is less likely to move. During the slower months, focus on addressing any outstanding maintenance issues. Promptly check in with your tenants to see how things are going. A little proactive communication can go a long way in fostering goodwill.
It's like that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Keeping your current tenants happy can save you a lot of hassle down the road.
Exactly. But while seasonal savvy is important, Linton stresses that it's just one element of a successful long-term strategy.
So it's about those year-round habits that build a solid foundation for your rental business. Give me those landlord golden rules.
Maintenance is key. Be proactive, not reactive. Don't wait for a small leak to turn into a major flood. Regular inspections and timely repairs can save you headaches and money down the road.
Okay, so stay on top of those maintenance to-dos. What else?
Remember those strategic renovations we discussed earlier? The off-season is the perfect time to tackle bigger projects. While everyone else is hibernating, you're upgrading, refreshing, and getting ready to wow those prime-time renters.
So it's like giving your townhome a mini makeover while the market's taking a breather. And I imagine understanding your target market plays a big role too. Who are you trying to attract?
Absolutely. Are you catering to families, young professionals, or maybe students? Each demographic has different needs and priorities, so tailor your amenities and marketing accordingly.
Makes sense. A family with young children might prioritize a fenced-in backyard, while young professionals might be drawn to those modern, open-concept layouts.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of attracting tenants, Linton's a big advocate for leveraging technology.
Okay, so we're bringing our landlord game into the digital age. Tell me more.
He recommends exploring property management software. These platforms can streamline everything from listing your property and screening tenants to collecting rent and tracking expenses.
It's like having a virtual assistant for your rental business.
Precisely. But even with the best tech tools, never underestimate the power of good old-fashioned networking.
Okay, back to basics. What does networking look like for a Chicago townhome landlord?
Connect with other real estate professionals in your area. Attend industry events, join landlord associations. These connections can provide invaluable insights, advice, and even potential leads.
So it's about tapping into that collective wisdom and building relationships within the Chicago real estate community.
Exactly. And one final thought on year-round strategies. Never lose sight of your exit strategy.
Okay, back to that escape route. But seriously, why is it so important to keep that exit strategy in mind, even if you're not planning to sell anytime soon?
Because life throws curveballs. Markets change, personal circumstances evolve. Having a well-thought-out exit strategy allows you to adapt and pivot when needed, whether that means selling for a profit, doing a 1031 exchange to defer those capital gains taxes, or simply holding on to the property for the long haul.
It's about being prepared for whatever the Chicago real estate market throws your way. Speaking of being prepared, let's talk about tenant turnover, a landlord's inevitable and often expensive reality. What are Linton's top tips for minimizing those dreaded vacancies?
It all starts with attracting the right tenants in the first place, and that's where a thorough tenant screening process comes into play.
Okay, so let's dive into those tenant screening best practices, Chicago style. What are those non-negotiables for landlords?
First and foremost, a detailed rental application is your starting point. We're talking personal information, employment history, income verification, rental history. Those all-important references leave no stone unturned.
So it's like those background checks they do for top secret government jobs, but for renters. What else should landlords be looking for?
Linton emphasizes that you can't just rely on self-reported information. Professional background checks are a must. This means digging into credit history, verifying employment and income, and yes, even looking for any criminal records.
It's about protecting your investment and ensuring you're bringing responsible and trustworthy tenants into your property.
Exactly. But beyond the numbers and the background checks, the interview is crucial. This is your chance to get a feel for the applicant's personality, their communication style, and their overall vibe.
It's about finding that right fit, that tenant who's not only financially responsible, but also respectful of your property and a good neighbor to those around them.
Exactly. It's about that human element, that gut feeling that tells you this person will be a good fit for your property.
Okay, so we found our potential tenant. They've aced the background check. They charmed us during the interview. Time to sign on the dotted line. What does Linton recommend when it comes to crafting that all-important lease agreement?
In Chicago, the lease agreement is your roadmap for a smooth landlord-tenant relationship. It outlines everyone's rights and responsibilities, those do's and don'ts that help avoid misunderstandings down the road.
Okay, so no more scribbling agreements on the back of takeout menus. It's time to get official and make sure everything's clear, concise, and legally sound.
Exactly. And certain clauses are particularly crucial in the Chicago market.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are those must-have clauses that landlords should be aware of?
Anything related to security deposits is paramount. As we discussed earlier, Chicago has specific regulations governing security deposits, so make sure your lease agreement clearly outlines the amount where it's held, how interest accrues, and under what conditions it will be returned.
So it's about transparency and accountability right from the start. What
Wow.
else?
Don't forget about late fees. Clearly outline the late fee amount, but remember, Chicago's RLTO dictates the maximum you can charge and the notice periods you must provide, so stay compliant.
Got it. It's about striking that balance between encouraging timely rent payments and staying on the right side of those Chicago regulations. What other essential clauses should landlords consider?
Anything related to maintenance and repairs is crucial. Clearly outline the tenant's responsibilities, keeping the property clean, reporting any maintenance issues promptly.
Okay, so it's about setting those expectations up front. Tenants need to understand they have a role to play in keeping the property in good shape.
Exactly. And on the flip side, your lease agreement should clearly outline your responsibilities as a landlord when it comes to those more extensive repairs and maintenance tasks.
It's all about transparency and clear communication. Now, before we get too bogged down in the legal stuff, can we talk about something a little more fun? Renovations. Give me those expert tips for transforming Chicago townhomes from drab to fab.
Let's do it. We've already touched on the power of kitchen and bathroom renovations, but let's dive deeper into those strategic upgrades that make renters swoon.
Okay, I'm ready for those interior design secrets. What's hot in Chicago kitchens these days?
Think sleek, modern, and functional stainless steel appliances are still a winner, and quartz countertops are all the rage for their durability and that high-end look.
So we're saying goodbye to those avocado green appliances from decades past.
Definitely. And don't underestimate the power of good lighting. A well-lit kitchen is a happy kitchen. Consider a mix of ambient task and accent lighting to create a warm and inviting space.
It's amazing how much of a difference good lighting can make. Now let's talk about those bathroom bliss outs. What are renters looking for in their Chicago townhome retreats?
Walk-in showers are always a top request. They add that touch of luxury and create a sense of spaciousness, even in smaller bathrooms.
Okay, I'm sold walk-in showers for everyone, but
Yeah.
what about those finishing touches, those little details that elevate the bathroom from basic to spa-like?
Think about upgrading those faucets and fixtures. A sleek new faucet can make a world of difference. And don't forget about storage. Everyone appreciates ample storage space in the bathroom.
So true. No one wants to be tripping over towels or toiletries. Okay, we've covered the kitchen, the bathroom. What other areas of the townhome deserve some renovation love?
Flooring is another big one. It's amazing how much new flooring can transform a space.
It's the foundation of a room.
Yeah.
So what are the flooring trends we should be paying attention to?
Hardwood floors are always a classic choice. They add warmth, character, and value to any home. But for those on a tighter budget, luxury vinyl plank flooring offers a durable and stylish alternative.
And it comes in so many styles these days. You can get that hardwood look without the hardwood price tag. But what about those energy-efficient upgrades we talked about earlier? How can landlords incorporate those eco-conscious choices into their renovations?
Energy efficiency isn't just about replacing appliances, it's about thinking holistically.
Because it's about those big-picture decisions that can make a real difference in the long run.
Exactly. When you're renovating, consider things like insulation windows and even the orientation of the house to maximize natural light.
So it's about working with the existing structure to enhance its energy efficiency. What are some specific examples?
For example, if you're replacing the windows, opt for double or triple paned windows with a high energy efficiency rating. And when it comes to insulation, don't just focus on the attic. Consider insulating walls and even crawl spaces to create a tighter, more energy-efficient building envelope.
So it's about those hidden upgrades that might not be visible to the naked eye, but make a real difference in terms of comfort and energy savings. Now we've covered those interior transformations. What about curb appeal? How can landlords make their Chicago townhomes shine from the street?
A little landscaping goes a long way. You don't need to create a botanical garden, but some well-placed trees, shrubs, and flowers can add instant curb appeal.
It's about creating that welcoming first impression. And a fresh coat of paint on the front door never hurts either.
Absolutely. Your front door is like a friendly face, welcoming potential renters inside. Choose a color that complements the architectural style of your townhome and adds a pop of personality.
It's those little details that make a big difference. Okay, we've covered so much ground with renovations. Now let's shift gears and talk about the financial side of things. How do people actually afford to buy these Chicago townhomes and embark on these landlord adventures?
That's a great question, and it's one that Linton addresses in detail in his book. He walks us through the various financing options available to Chicago investors.
Okay, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to financing those real estate dreams.
Exactly. There are options for every financial situation and investment goal. Let's start with the most common option, traditional mortgages.
Okay, so those are the loans you get from banks and mortgage lenders, but there are different types of mortgages, right?
You've got fixed-rate mortgages where the interest rate stays the same throughout the life of the loan, providing predictability. Then there are adjustable-rate mortgages, or ARMs, where the interest rate fluctuates based on market conditions, offering the potential for lower initial payments, but also the risk of those payments increasing down the road.
Okay, so it's all about weighing those pros and cons and choosing the option that aligns best with your risk tolerance and financial goals. But what about those who might not qualify for a traditional mortgage? Are there alternatives?
Absolutely. There are government-insured loan programs designed to make homeownership more accessible. For example, FHA loans insured by the Federal Housing Administration often have more lenient credit and income requirements and typically require a lower down payment.
So those can be a great option for first-time homebuyers or those with a smaller down payment saved up.
Exactly. And for those who have built up equity in their existing home, a home equity line of credit, or HELOC, can be a strategic way to access funds for a down payment or even to finance the entire purchase of an investment property.
Okay, so it's like leveraging the power of your current home to fuel your next investment. Smart. But what about those who need a quicker turnaround? Those who don't want to wait for those traditional lending processes? Are there faster, more flexible financing options available?
There are. That's where private lending comes into play.
Okay, so we're venturing beyond the world of banks and mortgage companies.
Exactly. Private lenders can be individuals, investment groups, or even online platforms that connect borrowers with investors seeking higher returns. These loans are often called hard money loans because they're based more on the value of the property itself, or hard asset, than your credit score or income.
So it's a different set of criteria. What are the advantages of going this route?
Well, private loans can be much faster to secure. We're talking days or weeks rather than months. They also offer more flexibility in terms of loan terms and conditions, which can be appealing to investors who might not fit those traditional lending boxes.
Okay, so it's about speed and flexibility, but what about the drawbacks? Those advantages must come at a cost.
They do. Private loans typically come with higher interest rates than traditional mortgages, and those repayment terms. They can be shorter and less forgiving.
Okay, so it's a higher risk, potentially higher reward scenario. It's
Yeah.
about weighing those factors carefully and deciding if that accelerated timeline and increased flexibility are worth those potentially higher costs.
Exactly. It's all about making informed decisions that align with your investment goals and risk tolerance.
Great advice. Now, before we move on to part 3 of our Chicago townhome deep dive, where we'll explore those advanced legal and financial strategies that can take your investment game to the next level, let's take a moment to talk about protecting that valuable asset. I'm talking about insurance.
Insurance, often overlooked, but oh so crucial. When you're a landlord, you need more than just that standard homeowner's policy.
Okay, so we're talking about specialized coverage for those who are renting out their properties. What are those must-have insurance policies for Chicago townhome landlords?
Landlord insurance is a must. This type of policy provides coverage for the building itself, any personal property you provide for your tenants, and liability protection in case someone is injured on your property.
Okay, so it's like a safety net for those unexpected events that can pop up when you're a landlord. Walk me through those coverages in a bit more detail.
Dwelling coverage protects the physical structure of your townhome from perils like fire, windstorms, hail. It's there to help cover the cost of repairs or even rebuilding if your property is damaged.
Okay, so if a tornado rips through Chicago and takes a bite out of your roof, dwelling coverage has your back.
Exactly. And then there's personal property coverage. This protects any furnishings, appliances, or other belongings you provide for your tenant's use. So if that brand new refrigerator you just installed decides to give up the ghost, you're covered.
Okay, so it's not just about protecting the bricks and mortar. It's about those essential items that make your townhome livable. What about those uh-oh moments when someone gets hurt on your property?
That's where liability coverage comes in. It protects you financially if a tenant or a guest is injured on your property and decides to sue.
Okay, so it's about peace of mind, knowing you're covered in case of those unexpected accidents. Are there any other types of insurance that Chicago landlords should consider?
Given Chicago's unpredictable weather, flood insurance is worth considering, especially if your townhome is in an area prone to flooding. Standard policies typically don't cover flood damage, so it's an additional layer of protection.
Good to know. And I imagine if your townhome is part of a homeowners association, there might be additional insurance requirements.
You're right. You'll want to check with your HOA about their specific insurance requirements. You might need to purchase what's called loss assessment coverage to cover your share of any assessments levied by the HOA for shared expenses or repairs.
Okay, so it's about understanding those shared responsibilities and ensuring everyone's adequately protected. Any final insurance tips for our Chicago townhome landlords?
Shop around for the best rates and coverages. Don't just settle for the first quote you get. Compare options from different insurance providers to find the policy that best meets your needs and your budget.
Great advice. Now, before we wrap up part two of our Chicago townhome deep dive, I want to touch on a topic that's often overlooked, but is crucial for long-term success. Building a diversified investment portfolio.
Certification, the golden rule of investing. It's not just about putting all your eggs in one basket, or in this case, one townhome.
Okay, so spread those investments around. But what does that look like in the context of Chicago's real estate market? Are we talking about different neighborhoods, different types of properties?
It's all about spreading that risk.
Yeah.
You might have a townhome in a stable, family-friendly suburb, a condo in a trendy up-and-coming neighborhood, and maybe even a small multifamily unit in a more established part of the city.
Okay, so it's about creating a balanced portfolio that aligns with your investment goals and risk tolerance.
Exactly. Diversifying across different property types and locations can help mitigate risk and create a more resilient investment strategy.
It's about weathering those market fluctuations. But I imagine managing a diverse portfolio can come with its own set of challenges. What are some things landlords should be aware of?
You're right. Managing multiple properties, especially if they're in different locations or appeal to different renter demographics, could be more complex. You might want to consider bringing in a property manager to help with those day-to-day tasks and ensure everything runs smoothly.
So it's about knowing your limits and seeking support when needed. Now, we've covered a lot of ground in the second part of our Chicago townhome deep dive.
We have. We've explored those seasonal strategies for maximizing profits, dived deeper into tenant screening and lease agreements, explored renovation tips for maximizing appeal and value, and even navigated the world of financing and insurance.
Whew, it's been a whirlwind. But we're not done yet. Be sure to join us for part 3 of our Chicago townhome deep dive, where we'll delve into those advanced legal and financial strategies that can take your investment game to the next level. We'll uncover the secrets of 1031 exchanges, explore the power of depreciation, and arm you with the knowledge to make those savvy financial decisions that lead to long-term success. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the final stretch of our exploration of the Chicago townhome market.
It's been a fascinating journey unpacking Michael R. Linton's wealth of knowledge from Build a Portfolio of Townhome Rentals.
Exactly. We've tackled those foundational strategies, but now it's time to unlock those expert-level moves. Think of it like we've learned the basic steps, but now we're adding those fancy footwork techniques to really impress.
That's a great analogy. And one of those advanced maneuvers that Linton highlights is the power of the 1031 exchange, a tool that can be a game changer for investors looking to level up their portfolios.
Okay, 1031 exchange. We teased it in earlier parts, but now it's time to break it down. What exactly is this magical real estate maneuver?
Imagine this. You've got a townhome that's appreciated in value. You're ready to cash out and reinvest those profits into a new property. But those capital gains taxes are looming large. A 1031 exchange allows you to defer those taxes by rolling those gains into a similar investment property.
So it's like a tax advantage swap meet for real estate investors.
Exactly. It's a powerful strategy for building wealth and maximizing your returns. But there are some rules of the road.
Okay, lay those ground rules on me. What are the 1031 exchange must-knows?
First, both properties involved need to be like-kind, meaning they're both held for investment purposes. You can't swap your Chicago townhome rental for a vacation villa in Tuscany.
Okay, so no international real estate shenanigans. Both properties need to be in the investment game. What else?
Timing is crucial. You have a limited window to identify and close on a replacement property after selling your original property.
Okay, so it's not a leisurely stroll through the real estate market. It's a strategic sprint. How long do investors have to make those moves?
You have 45 days to identify a replacement property and 180 days to close the deal.
Wow, so no pressure. It sounds like having a solid plan and a trusted team in place is essential. Speaking of teams, Linton mentions the importance of working with a qualified intermediary during a 1031 exchange, right?
Absolutely. A qualified intermediary is like your 1031 Sherpa, guiding you through the process, handling those funds, and ensuring you're adhering to all those IRS regulations.
Okay, so it's not a DIY project. It's about bringing in the experts to navigate those complexities. But done right, a 1031 exchange can be a powerful tool for investors looking to grow their portfolios and defer those capital gains taxes.
Precisely. Now, let's move beyond the 1031 exchange and explore another financial concept that's crucial for real estate investors: depreciation.
Okay, depreciation. I'll admit this one always makes my head spin a bit. Can you break it down in a way that even a real estate newbie can understand?
I'll try. Essentially, depreciation allows you to deduct a portion of your rental property's value each year as an expense on your taxes, reflecting the wear and tear that occurs over time.
So it's like getting a little tax break each year to acknowledge that your property isn't brand spanking new forever.
Exactly. And these deductions can add up, potentially lowering your tax bill and increasing your cash flow.
Okay, that's the kind of math I like, but how do you actually calculate depreciation? Is it just a random guesstimate?
Thankfully, no. The IRS provides specific guidelines for calculating depreciation based on the property's useful life, which is 27.5 years for residential rental properties.
Okay, so there's a method to the madness. It sounds like working with a tax professional who understands these real estate nuances would be wise.
Absolutely. They can help you navigate those complexities and ensure you're maximizing those depreciation deductions legally and effectively.
So we've got our tax-advantaged exchanges or depreciation deductions. What other financial wisdom does Linton impart to help Chicago townhome investors build long-term wealth?
Linton stresses the importance of treating your real estate ventures like a business.
Okay, so we're not just passively collecting rent checks and hoping for the best. We're strategic, we're organized, we've got a plan.
Exactly. He recommends developing a detailed budget that tracks all your income and expenses.
So spreadsheets are our friends. We're talking about tracking those mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance premiums, those ongoing maintenance costs.
It's all part of being financially savvy. And don't forget those unexpected expenses that inevitably arise. A leaky roof, a broken appliance, a tenant who decides to break their lease.
Right, because as we know, life rarely follows a perfectly predictable spreadsheet. What does Linton suggest to prepare for those financial curveballs?
He recommends building an emergency fund, a financial cushion, specifically for those unforeseen expenses. This helps you weather those storms without derailing your investment plans.
So it's like that emergency savings account everyone should have, but for your rental property. Smart. But beyond those day-to-day financial management tips, what about those big-picture wealth-building strategies?
Linton's philosophy centers around the idea of long-term growth. He encourages investors to view real estate, particularly in a market as resilient as Chicago, as a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, so we're not flipping those townhomes for a quick buck. We're in it for the long haul, building a portfolio that appreciates over time.
Precisely. It's about patience, strategic decision-making, and a commitment to the long game.
And I imagine reinvesting those profits back into your real estate ventures plays a significant role in that long-term growth.
You're right. As you generate income and see your properties appreciate, consider reinvesting those profits into upgrades, renovations, or even acquiring additional properties.
So it's about leveraging those initial investments to fuel future growth. It's like planting a seed and then nurturing it, watching it grow into a mighty oak tree of wealth. But before we wrap up this deep dive into Chicago's townhome market, let's take a moment to revisit the importance of those legal considerations.
Absolutely. Understanding the legal landscape is paramount for protecting yourself and your investments. We've touched on some of those Chicago-specific regulations, but it's worth reiterating those key principles.
Okay, refresher time. What are those legal must-knows that every Chicago landlord should have top of mind?
Fair housing laws are non-negotiable. Remember, you cannot discriminate against tenants based on race, religion, national origin, familial status, disability.
So it's about creating an inclusive and equitable rental environment. Everyone deserves a fair shot.
Exactly. And it's not just about those overt forms of discrimination. Be mindful of any implicit biases that might unintentionally influence your decisions.
So it's about being aware of those subtle ways that prejudice can creep in and ensuring our practices are genuinely fair and inclusive?
Precisely. Another crucial area is safety and habitability. Remember, as a landlord in Chicago, You're legally obligated to provide a safe and habitable living environment for your tenants.
Right, those Chicago winters are no joke. We're talking about functioning heating systems, working smoke detectors, a structurally sound building.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the importance of staying up to date on those Chicago building codes. Those regulations can change, so it's essential to stay informed.
Okay, so ignorance of the law is no excuse. And what about documentation? It seems like that's a recurring theme in the world of real estate.
Documentation is key. Keep detailed records of everything: lease agreements, rent payments, maintenance requests, communications with tenants.
So if a dispute arises, you've got that paper trail to support your case.
Exactly. Having those records can be invaluable in protecting yourself and your investments.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive into the Chicago townhome market. We've explored market trends, financial strategies, legal considerations, renovation tips, and even those advanced maneuvers like 1031 exchanges and the power of depreciation.
It's been a whirlwind tour through the ins and outs of successful townhome investing.
And hopefully, our listeners are walking away with a wealth of knowledge and a newfound confidence to navigate this exciting market. Remember, it's not just about buying a property, it's about understanding the nuances, making strategic decisions, and building a sustainable and profitable business.
As Michael R. Linton wisely advises, knowledge is power. The more you learn about the Chicago real estate market, the better equipped you'll be to seize those opportunities and achieve your investment goals.
Okay, folks, that's a wrap on our Chicago townhome deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the world of real estate investing. Remember, it's not just about bricks and mortar, it's about making smart choices that align with your financial goals and aspirations. So until next time, happy investing.